you can have a very successful account, hundreds of thousands to millions of followers, life-changing sales and revenue without doing a single trend. So leverage an influencer that's going to be similar or that creates content that's in alignment with your brand.
So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about organic TikTok growth and the age of short form video content. It's a great episode you do not want to miss, so do stay tuned. Hello 2Xers, welcome to the 2X e-commerce podcast show. I'm your host, Kunle Campbell, and the 2X e-commerce podcast is dedicated to digital commerce insights for retail and e-commerce teams. Each week on this podcast, we interview either a commerce expert, a founder of a digital native consumer brand, or a representative from a best-in-class commerce SaaS product. They have a tight remit to give you ideas that you can test right away in your brand so you can improve commerce growth metrics such as conversions, average order value, repeat customers, your audience size, and ultimately your gross merchant value or sales. We are here to help you sell more sustainably. Right. Speaking of which, the episode you're about to listen to is an interview I had with Austin Armstrong, who is the CEO of Socialty Pro. They're a digital marketing agency that specializes in TikTok marketing and search engine optimization. He's posted over 1,500 TikToks with 325,000 followers at the time of recording this and millions of views. He averages about 2 million views per month and is a TikTok creator himself. He offers advice on how to approach TikTok as a digital native brand or a direct-to-consumer e-commerce brand. We really go through the fundamentals of content creation on TikTok, whether or not to use a creator or to get somebody in-house, the cadence of posting, what makes a good TikTok page, what makes a good TikTok, and how to repurpose this TikTok content you're creating on platforms such as YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. He has case studies. We go through a ton of case studies. We talked about Mermaid Straw, the Patch brand, several other brands, which is privy to either speaking to on his podcast or having worked with them. He also talks about how to leverage TikTok for lead generation or for building out your email list so you could retarget at some point or put into your lifecycle marketing campaigns, and the call to actions and cues you should be placing in your TikToks to really drive conversions within the platform to other platforms and your e-commerce stores in general. So if you are looking to build out your TikTok strategy, this is an episode to listen to for sure. For those who haven't already, we would deeply appreciate if you leave us a review on iTunes or the Apple podcast platform if you enjoy this particular show. Anyway, I'll let you listen to this interview I had with Austin Armstrong. I think it's really, really powerful. Some of the things he shared, some trends on TikTok like ASMR and many other trends on TikTok which you could take away. I particularly like the case studies of brands he shared with us. So I'll leave you to enjoy this episode and I shall catch you on the other side. Ta. Hello, Austin. Welcome to the 2X e-commerce podcast. It is an absolute pleasure having you on the show. So a warm welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Brilliant. So you're at Socialty Pro, you run Socialty Pro. But I want to, and as I always love to do, to get a bit of a background. So what are the run-up, sets of events that led you to founding and starting Socialty Pro?
Sure. So I've been doing digital marketing for about 17 years, which is kind of crazy to think about at this point. I actually started on MySpace when I was 14 years old, and I got caught by that bug and sort of never stopped. So fast forward a little while, that led me to working at a video marketing agency as an intern. I went from unpaid intern to paid intern to part-time to full-time. And my boss at the time, who's now my business partner, which is pretty cool.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That led to me working at other facilities, drug and alcohol treatment centers, managing their social media and entire online presence. That was kind of the angle of our agency was in the behavioral health space, really heavily focused on video marketing and a bit of SEO. And I had started my company, Socialty Pro, May of 2019. So in 2 months, it'll be 3 year anniversary. It was very much a side hustle for the first year and a half of that. And now,
Mhm.
about a year and a half ago, at this point, I was let go from the treatment center that I was working with due to COVID. And I was faced with that entrepreneurial decision of do I try and find another job in the middle of a pandemic here where businesses are closing down and nobody knows what's going on? Or do I take this opportunity, bet on myself, and go all in on my agency? And I
Mhm.
did. And it was the best decision I ever could have made. And even more specifically, I went all in on TikTok. And it was just a combination of those two things that led me to being on this podcast with you here today.
Incredible, incredible. There's a lot of digging through to, in that. So when you, so was the marketing strategy for your agency predominantly via TikTok?
Yes, and it still is. We get probably 90% of our business through directly from TikTok.
Okay. And how long have you been on TikTok?
Roughly 2.5 years.
And from the looks of things, you have 325,000 followers right now,
Yes.
3 million likes, and on average, none of your videos get anything less than 1,000 plays. In
Yeah,
fact,
they
I can
do
see
pretty
one
well.
of
That's those are
statistics.
those are pretty low. They go up into the millions sometimes. It's a wide range of views.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. So you have a lot of how does TikTok work? And I know this is like a very general question, but there will be some operators that have still not touched TikTok. So from your
Mhm.
success, if you were to whittle it down to the basics, how would you sort of start to acquire a community and an audience on TikTok if you were to do it as a direct to consumer e-commerce brand?
Absolutely. So the first thing to know is that TikTok is entirely a video focused platform. So aside from like Instagram, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with, there's a lot of different outlets to create content on there now. You have images, you have video, you have stories, you can even write guides, text based guides on Instagram. TikTok is a short form vertical video focused platform, even though they're starting to roll out longer and longer video lengths. At its core, it's short form vertical video viewed vertically on your phone. It is the fastest growing social media platform of all time, fastest to 1 billion users. Last year, it was the number one most visited website in the world, surpassing even Google, which is a pretty mind blowing stat.
Mhm.
Why it's different is it's engineered to be addictive. First of all, it's just dopamine hit after dopamine hit of endless videos, and it really learns quickly what you like, what you're engaging with, and what you're watching for even seconds longer than other videos. It tracks all of this data, so it very quickly knows what you're interested in as well as who's interested in your content. So it's when you're first getting started as an ecom brand, it's very important to have a strategy in place of what types of videos that you want to put out there and having a clear understanding of who you're trying to reach. So your buyer demographic, your target audience, having that clearly outlined and defined is going to make your content decisions way more effective so that you can hit the ground running.
Super interesting. Super interesting. So, what is your story? So 2 years back, obviously the opportunity in TikTok is certainly not as mature as it is now.
Mhm.
But if you were to do this again, just starting now in 2022, how would you do TikTok? How would you approach TikTok?
So what we do with all of our clients is we clearly outline who we're trying to reach, their emotional pain points, all of the products or services that you offer as a business. And we begin to categorize different content. So, one category could be the pain point that your product solves. One category could be the behind the scenes or the story of the brand. One category could be the benefits and features of the product, just to name a couple examples. And within each of those categories, you want to break it down into at least 10 to start 10 different ideas of videos that you could make. You could even outline like trends that are going on TikTok. You can do a bit of competitor research in your industry and see some of the top performing videos from a competitor and model those. And maybe that's a different category as well. And
Mm,
then what we do and what I recommend to do is go through each of these categories, all of the videos in every category, to give you a systematic approach.
mm,
You do this every single day, you're going to notice pretty quickly, okay, the uh, the emotional desire behind the product, those videos perform way better than just talking about the features of the product, or the behind the scenes or the story of the brand. Those videos perform way better than the other categories of content.
mm,
And that's going to give you a clear understanding of what works as well as what does not work so that you can double down on what you see working to expedite your growth even faster.
mm. And with the storytelling, I've seen this a lot, whereby you start out a brand on TikTok and you tell the story, so that it's a combination. So it's a voiceover type story with a bit of B-roll,
Mhm.
with a bit of insights into what you do on an everyday basis. I've even seen that format sort of repurposed to a TikTok ad. And do they work? And how do you transcend beyond that? Because not every brand is just starting out. It is really a hero versus or David versus Goliath type story. They tend to put in. um, what are the best ways brands can tell their stories, and remain very relevant to the TikTok um, you know um, community audience?
Yeah, I think just telling the origin story, where you were up until where you are. It doesn't need to be as polished as a platform like Instagram. I think part of the rawness of TikTok is why it's so appealing to so many people, because you can just get on there. You don't need to um, put on makeup. You don't need to stage the scene. You don't need to do all of this stuff. You can get real raw, um, and do a fantastic job. So I'd recommend just starting to film like your process, no matter where you're at in your business. If you're just in the founding stage, if you're in the experimental R&D stage, or if you're an established business that's been around forever, just start documenting everything, and you can start to craft that into a story. You can tell stories about problems that you're overcoming as your products are as you roll out new iterations of a product. For instance, maybe you know if you're trying to get funding, you can tell that story of what that was like. Tell the stories of your failures. Tell the story of, like, this was prototype number one, we sent it to market, and we got this horrible feedback from people that we needed to correct, so we've made this new adjustment to it. It's a better product. Here's where we're at today. Work in that you're incorporating real feedback from people so that they feel like they're along the journey for the process as well.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Right. From your perspective, what about overarching trends on TikTok? You have trending hashtags, you have trending sounds, um, and I think you even have trending filters or
Mhm.
so is should brands sort of utilize these trends trend what's your take on trends?
Yeah, so trends can help expedite growth. I want to be clear that they're not necessary in order to growth. You can have a very successful account, hundreds of thousands to millions of followers,
Mm,
life changing sales and revenue without doing a single trend. So don't think that you have to do a trend in order to be successful. With that said, um, they're fun. It's a fun way to lean into the platform a little bit, see how you can adopt that trend to your particular product or industry. There's always going to be a new trend that's pertaining to a song or a filter, like you were saying, or even tent poles as well. Like in products, there's always like Black Friday deal, right? Like get in early on that. Like Black Friday 2022. If you start creating content like a little bit earlier, you're going to be the first one to show up for that when the trend is coming. You never want to be too late to a trend. You want to sort of catch it at the beginning if possible, so that when the wave comes, you're already there.
mm,
And you're
mm,
going to find a lot of these trends just by spending more time on the app. To be honest, there's accounts that are dedicated to like trend alerts and whatnot. If that's really part of your strategy and game plan, but just by spending some time in the app, which I really do recommend, scrolling through the For You page, you're going to notice trends. You're going to notice multiple videos that are doing something similar, and then you can look at that feature. You can look at that sound, you can look at the hashtags and see how many people have adopted it and jump in.
interesting. Have you heard of the cosmetic brand called Too Face? Is it Too
No, I
Face?
haven't.
Okay. They did something very clever. I think it was last year, where they created a dance,
Mm-hmm.
a sequence, a technique, and just a and then they also got an artist to create a sound, a loop with vocals,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was like Two Faced. So the person was able to get the lyrics. It was hip hop based, and then they got a couple of their advocates or their creators to get into the trend
Mm-hmm.
with their hashtag. So they had a hashtag, a dance, and a soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
So they bundled all that together, and it was phenomenal. It really trended because creators had something a lot to work with. It was just not a hashtag. So they were able to accelerate just the awareness of their brand through this hashtag. I think they also paid to amplify it.
Sure.
But the dance technique, the sequence was amazing. Everybody just had their own versions of it, and it just almost became culture defining at that moment in time. Um, and I found that really interesting. Obviously, they're at the, I would say, upper end of the direct to consumer spectrum, in the sense that they have sufficient funding. Would you Have you come across anything similar where brands are creating essentially trends themselves beyond hashtags, or jumping on existing trends?
Yeah. First of all, I think that's a brilliant case study example that anybody can take advantage of. You could come up and develop that strategy. And if you're able to rally influencers as well as paid, you can sort of throw fuel on the fire there and expedite that. Because if you just do it and hope for the best, it's likely not going to be picked up by the masses. One example that came to mind is so I have a TikTok podcast, by the way, and this was a
Okay.
recent guest that just came on, a company called Mermaid Straw, and they have sustainable packaging products. They started with a metal straw, and they have reusable bottles for your soft drinks, whatever. And they've really leaned into a trend called ASMR, which is sort of the sounds and relaxation style of things. It's like a
Hmm.
trend within a trend, and it's not inherently related to their product at all. But they like most of their videos. They start every single video off by sliding this packing cube onto the table, and then they you know record the sounds of picking the straws out of their containers and packaging this thing and all of the sounds that come with it. And it's very colorful as well. They use pinks and turquoise and purples and all kinds of really beautiful colors in there. And so they've really leaned into this ASMR trend, and that's something that their brand has become associated with.
Mm, mm. That is very interesting. It's a massive sub trend on YouTube
Yes.
that has made its way through TikTok, and it's banging really when you think about it.
Hmm.
Very, very, very interesting. Do you have any other? We'll link to your podcast. Definitely link to
Oh,
your
sure.
partner.
Thank
I
you.
would love to check it out.
Hmm.
Do you promote your podcast on TikTok yourself, or do you let it just sit in the podcast ecosystem?
Yeah, we absolutely do. So it's a brand new podcast. Thanks for linking to it. It's called Business Talk,
Okay,
Business TOK. And we do a video podcast of it. And what we do is we actually clip out meaningful segments from the conversation and
mhm.
turn those into short TikTok videos across social media that we repurpose.
Interesting. Super, super interesting. So from the podcast, do you have any other sort of clever case studies from e-commerce brands finding success in TikTok, particularly in the organic sphere of the platform?
Yeah, another great one is a company called Patch Brands, which are like multivitamins and things for energy and whatnot. It's a patch and it absorbs through the skin. So it's sort of an industry disruptor. It's kind of, it's like taking on the multivitamin and the supplement space, but something similar that people understand, like nicotine patches if you're trying to quit
Hmm.
smoking cigarettes or whatnot. They've done a fantastic job jumping on trends, telling relatable stories, and leveraging influencers and UGC as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So one of
Hmm.
the interesting things that they did is they used, I forget which platform that they used, but they hired influencers initially to create some content for them, and they ended up hiring one on retainer uh, to be a dedicated content creator for their brand, because the owner does create some content himself, but they wanted to leverage an existing content creator on a regular basis that has that face value a little bit, but already knows how to hit the ground running with videos that are going to resonate on TikTok. The energy, how it's structured, the editing, everything in there. So that was, I thought, a fascinating example as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and holding someone accountable, that knows the craft is so important. It's such an important step to systematizing it because the founder could be working out, sorting out finance, or doing other things in the business and just forgets about it, and it just dies, on there with no responsibility. So I like that. I also noticed because I'm on their TikTok page now, their packaging is really nice and it's appealing. It's very millennial focused. There are lots of product demo ads. It's a new way of doing
I actually
things.
got some.
Yeah. I'm interested. Um,
He's got me
how,
some.
which brings me to my next question. How important is product packaging, and how important is the redefined utility of a product, or the redefined um, just approach to a product, a novel, the novelty effect, and then packaging. How important is that for success on TikTok?
Well, it's essential, I would say, not just for TikTok, but if you're ever doing shelf space or anything like that, right? It has to stand out. It has to
Mm,
pop. It has to um, be eye catching so that they can, know that when they see that packaging, it's clearly this particular brand. It's you're using colors. It's very descriptive. Like when I look at this, this one, I clearly see the benefit of it, what it does, what's in it, and everything. It looks like a trusted brand. It's really important, and the the more unique and interesting that a product is and looks, the more adopted I think it's going to be as well. So if your goal is to get your product to be mass adopted and go viral on a platform like TikTok, you want it to be something that people really want to have and show off, not just use for themselves, but ultimately show off and be a brand ambassador for.
mm,
Going back to Mermaid Straw, for instance, their products are super colorful, like the mermaid colors, turquoise, pinks, and purples and blues, etc. People are happy to show those products off because they're colorful and they're attention grabbing.
interesting, interesting. And what I found very interesting from what you said earlier was the fact that majority of your consultancy leads and business actually comes from TikTok.
Mhm.
What age demographic and maybe even sex demographic are your customers? Are they millennials? Are they Gen Xers? Running brands, or are they probably even older folks? Are they Gen Z? What is the demographic? Because we've always thought that decision makers hang out on LinkedIn or maybe even Tik or Twitter. Would you finding this unique way of getting clients from TikTok is very interesting to me. Do you mind shedding a bit more light on the demographic of your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So because of the content that I create, it does gear older. So I get a lot of millennials and people even in the what comes after uh, millennials,
Gen
the
Z.
older Gen Z. Yeah, or not? No, not Gen Z. Gen Z is younger, right? What's the older?
Yes, Gen X.
Gen X. Okay. So primarily millennials and Gen X are my clientele because I'm talking about how to grow your existing business online, how to get more website traffic from SEO, and showing exact case studies of our clients and whatnot. It's just not interesting to a Gen Z kid. So it does attract older demographics of people. And I think there's something really interesting here of where that misconception comes from is that there's over 1 billion users on TikTok worldwide now. In the United States, there's well over 100 million uh, active users, and that's just people logging into the app. So I think where this misconception comes from is what content you're seeing. So you're seeing a lot of younger people creating content, and when you first open the app, the algorithm doesn't know what you like. You have to sort of train it a little bit. So over time, it'll serve you more of the content that you're interested in. Initially, it'll just show you the most viral content because it's trying to figure out what you like, which does gear towards younger kids and whatnot. This is an opportunity for most brands because what it's showing is that there's a lot of people lurking. There's a lot of people watching, but they're not actively creating. So there's a gap there in the industry, in the marketplace. There's a
Mm.
gap in every industry. I don't care, even some of the more saturated marketplaces are really not that saturated compared to some of the more mature platforms out there. So my agency is proof that there are an older demographic on there, and I'll bring out a quick case study of a guy. I always like to bring this guy up as a case study of anybody that says there's only young people on there. There's a guy, Scott Sims. I think the real Scott Sims is his username. His entire account is about Medicare enrollment for people 65 plus.
Hmm.
which is an insurance for in the United States for after retirement. And he's got like 130, 140,000 followers, and he's only talking to 65 plus community, as well as their children who are 35, 40, 50 years old and trying to help their parents out.
Hmm.
So absolutely there's older demographics on there.
Super, super interesting. What about leveraging? I mean, one of the key points you mentioned earlier, which I find very important, and I didn't really, dig deeper into it, was the fact that use TikTok to enrich to build out your email database, so
Yeah.
you could put in flows and retargeting and all of that. What about cross-platform just audience building? So using TikTok to generate more subscribers on your YouTube or Instagram. How would you suggest people take that approach just audience building on other platforms using TikTok as leverage?
hmm So there's two main ways that you can do this. One is you can directly connect your YouTube and your Instagram account to your TikTok. So when someone views your profile, there's a little icon there. It's like a social media icon. If they click on that, it'll pop up a menu for YouTube and Instagram. So I highly recommend connecting that on that, and just by having that, people a percentage of people will cross pollinate over, because that's a well known feature and functionality on the app.
Mm,
In order to cross pollinate people over to, let's say, YouTube, for instance, if you put out a long YouTube video, you could put out a teaser trailer on TikTok and say, in this video, I'm going to cover X, Y, and Z. I did an entire YouTube video about this. You can find the full video in my profile, and sort of tease it, hype it up a little bit, and provide them with those next steps that they can come over. For Instagram specific, one really clever thing that I've done in the past is sometimes a video on TikTok will get taken down for a content violation or content policy or something like that. So when that happens, what I do is I'll create a video and say, TikTok doesn't want me to show you this. And then I sort of tease what the video is about, and the value of that video. And then I'll say, but you can watch it on my Instagram because they don't censor. So I'll say something controversial like that. First of all, of course, Instagram censors,
mhm,
and that increases the engagement on that video. Everybody runs to the comments and says, what do you mean they don't censor? Of course they censor. But I'm creating intent and a reason to go over to my Instagram, and that is a fantastic way to drive traffic over there. You can just re-upload that video. A third strategy that I recommend, which is time sensitive right now. We're in a really interesting landscape in the social media world. But what we do, I do this personally, and we do this for everybody that we work with, is we start on TikTok. We create a really well and thoughtful video for TikTok. And then we download that video watermark free. We use a website called snaptic.app,
mhm,
which downloads that video watermark free, and then we upload it onto Instagram as a reel. We upload it onto YouTube as a short. We upload it, if it's 30 seconds or less, we upload it onto Facebook as Facebook Reels. We also post them on Pinterest as idea pins, which is a newer feature on Pinterest.
mm,
We post them on LinkedIn. We post them on Twitter. We post them on, if you have a brick and mortar location or an office and you have a Google My Business page, we post them on Google Business profiles.
mm,
Um, I personally don't post them on Snapchat because I don't like their discoverability platform, but we post them everywhere because everybody is trying to catch up with TikTok right now because it grew so fast, and all of these platforms just steal from one another. So short form vertical video works across the board right now.
mm.
Just in the past um, 5 6 months, I went from about 3,000 followers on Instagram to I'm at 52,000 followers on Instagram right now.
Mm.
And it is almost entirely from repurposing my TikTok videos as Instagram reels.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 and that's a focus really to really pump up creators who are active in Rails on the Rails platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, so repurposing really is the game. It is really the game, and short form content is where it's at. Attention spans are really
Yeah.
short, and you're looking 10, 15 seconds, and that's it. Get your point. Right. Super interesting conversation. What's finally your thoughts on utilizing creators? Particularly TikTok creators. They have a creator program. Who do you think is doing it well? What brands do you think are doing it well? And how should the audience also think about the use of creators on TikTok?
Yeah, so leverage an influencer that's going to be similar to, or that creates content that's in alignment with your brand. So you don't want to, highlight if your product is for 35 plus men, and it's a beard trimmer. I'm just coming up with an idea, right? You're probably not going to want to leverage a Gen Z creator that's talking about um, the latest TV show, or something random, right? Because it's not going to be related. So pick somebody that is in alignment with the values and is creating similar content to what your brand and your product is. We've mentioned a couple great brands in this episode that are leveraging TikTok, right? One of the best brands out there on TikTok right now. Highlight two. Duolingo, which is a language learning app. They are so funny. They have their mascot, which is this green bird, and essentially they just troll other brands. And they do such a funny way of leaning into the comments and responding to people and leveraging this bird in different trends, and it's hysterical.
Mm,
Another international brand that's fascinating is an airline company called Ryanair. They're sort of I think they're a
yeah,
budget airline that
they're a local
international.
airline here. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Their TikTok is so funny, and it has worked so well for them. They have a couple million followers on there. They'll just take a picture of their airplane on the tarmac, and they'll use a filter where it's like the eyes and the mouth of the person, and they'll position it on the airplane, and they'll use a trending sound, or they'll say something relatable, and it's so funny. So look at what big brands are doing on the platform. Get creative with this. Leverage creators that are going to enhance your brand and bring positive awareness and intention to what you're selling.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoy the Ryanair one. And the interesting thing is they haven't done that many. They haven't put that many TikToks out there. I
Yeah,
mean, it's like one, two, three, four, five times one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So they've only put about 40 TikToks, but that has amassed millions of
yeah,
views, literally millions. Super interesting. So my takeaway from this is be fun, be entertaining
yeah,
on TikTok, while still, throwing in your sales pitch in a fun way. It's a fun platform, and in order to really blend into the platform or pop out of the platform, you really need to be entertaining. Final question has got to do with what do you think content teams should look like in e-commerce businesses? So there's a lot of issues with paid marketing at the moment, and brands that are managing to just get through with the inflationary pressures, and also rising ad cost, and the drop in conversions from paid ads have leaned a lot to organic content.
Hmm.
Whether it's organic content on a YouTube channel, whether it's organic content on their blog, or SEO organic content. A lot of them are leaning into that to get cheap traffic, and then paid is getting more leverage off the back of that. So looking at a video first, world that we live in your opinion, what should a content team look like? Internal content team at an e-commerce brand.
Yeah, I think you can start with one person, one really competent digital marketer that is comfortable being the face of it, is comfortable developing content ideas, is comfortable editing within the TikTok app because the app itself is very easy to edit, and then repurposing it across the board. If you have a dedicated social media person on your team, uh, that is a fantastic way to get started. You could have one rock star. If you want to expand, you could expand into different roles, right? You could have um, a specific content strategist, like really work on creating the ideas, doing the research on topics, competitors, trends, hashtags, sounds, etc. Have one person dedicated to the actual research, have some sort of talent to create the actual videos. That would be an awesome dynamic and duo. You could expand it into an editor if you really need to. I don't think it's necessary. It depends on the type of content that you're creating. But remember, you can have a lot of great results being raw. For instance, my videos are it's me holding a selfie video up and then switching the camera view to record something on my computer screen and then back to me, and I have 325,000 followers and do 2 million views a month. So it's all about the messaging. That's the most important thing. And I do all of our content myself. Not saying
Mm.
that everybody's going to be as, experienced, but you can get the ball rolling with one person and then scale up if you absolutely need to, or if somebody's just like not confident in one of those aspects.
Do you have any content deals?
What do you mean content deals?
Asking for a friend. So with 2 million views a month, 325,000 followers, do brands come to you to want to
Oh,
collaborate?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I work a lot. So I'm also an influencer, not just an agency owner and creator. It's a big part of my business model, actually. So I highlight a lot of useful websites. So my
Mm.
content is focused on like useful digital marketing strategies that brands can directly implement, useful websites that are going to make people's lives easier. So SaaS companies come to me constantly. I do 3 to 4 brand deals a month, and those videos go up across all of my social media that I had mentioned.
Fascinating stuff. Austin, it's been an incredible pleasure having you on the 2x e-commerce podcast show. I could go on and on. So obviously, where's the? I'll just link to your TikTok. Okay, I was going to ask you where's the best place. People should people can reach out to you, but your website is Socialty Pro. That's SOCI social SOCIAL Pro.com, and then your handle on TikTok is just Socialty Pro too.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and like I had mentioned too, my podcast is called Business Talk. So I interview businesses and entrepreneurs in every industry that are leveraging TikTok to drive sales.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very tactical podcast. So that's businesstalk.com, or you can just search for Business Talk and find that podcast anywhere.
We'll do. We'll link to it in our show notes. Again, a pleasure having you, Austin, on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.